So hi, my name is Manny Abraham. I'm the founder CEO of OrbCare. OrbCare is a unified health cloud platform that is fundamentally changing how healthcare is delivered going forward. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but today, while I'm presenting, I'm going to talk about the last 20 years. I've built 4 companies. This is my 4th product. So some of the lessons I've learned, I wanted to share, and most importantly, my journey through them. Hopefully, some of you can listen to them, and it might help. So let me get started here. So how did it all get started? It's funny. My first company when I was 20, it was an inconsequential meeting on a GO train with a bunch of buddies that worked, and we traveled every day to go to work. And this was down in the mining industry collapse in the dot-com heydays. So this inconsequential meeting on a GO train led to starting my first company, which was traded on TSX. So sometimes, small meetings and small things lead to big things. So my advice is take risks, and I'm a perfect example of that. So you take risks and you take the opportunities when they come, and you should try them out. And it's a perfect example for me at the age of 20, starting a public company, and the meeting was on a GO train. So I'll talk a little bit about that first company, Cogent. It was traded on TSX. And the important lesson I want to share at Cogent is, technology itself cannot change things. And you might be, we were 2000, the heydays of .com, you're trying to change healthcare. So we did quite a bit then. And I think some of those technologies that we built then still doesn't exist today. And it's not actually being used. So sometimes tech is not always the great thing, because some industries are so archaic that no matter how good your tech is, it doesn't fundamentally change things, because some of the archaic problems that exist within that industry has to fundamentally change. I'll talk a little bit about how we are addressing it now and some of the lessons we've learned over then, but that's a perfect example for me when we had this great tech. Some of the tech that we built still is not built today, but we were not as successful as we thought we could have been in 2000. The next one, it's also a public company called Nightingale. Some of you might know of them. So in this particular company where I built it, one of the most important things I've learned from that particular company is a core team of small group can do more than 100 and 200 staff. I mean, at a group of 25, we beat the market. We dominated Canada. We were in US. And they grew to 200 people, but they still couldn't replicate the group of 25 that started it. So great lesson there is core teams, core missions, common goals, and the drive is a lot more important than the strength of the staff or the numbers and the raises and everything else that comes with it. Present OrbCare, a little bit about OrbCare. This is my 4th, but in OrbCare, what we are fundamentally doing is addressing the core problems that healthcare persists, which is, most people think of access to care in healthcare. How many of you think your hair salon has better access than your healthcare provider? I mean, show me. You get better access, right? It's not that the doctors don't want to provide you better access. It's because the systems and the tools that they are working with hinders them, right? So core problems in healthcare is not that it's tech. It's the fundamental workflows and the issues that are persistent in healthcare that needs to be addressed. So OrbCare is trying to address that. For example, wouldn't it be lovely that when you call the doctor, they know exactly who you are and know what you were there for, where you are? That doesn't exist today, but we are changing that. In the coming months in OrbCare, we're going to actually be building and releasing something where you control your own health records, right? So this will fundamentally change how you own records and health records. So lessons from my side I want to share. Please ignore the hype because I was been part of it. It's not about the raise, trust me. It's about delivery and sales. Tech, when you're building tech, make sure you build it for ease of use and convenience. Without it, it's useless. Team structure, core teams are very important because these are the people that are actually going to deliver for you. And focus on common goals. Create mission statements, create mission goals, team structure and team goals. This will help you to run your company. And last but not least, patience. It takes time. Sometimes you want it to go much faster than it does, but patience is key. That's it. The last few takeaway points that I wanted to leave is tech will have a great impact, and I think OrbCare is trying to do that. Patience have been ready, and they've been ready for a while. I think the tech is trying to catch up. Avoid the hype, and focus on convenience and ease of use. Thank you.
Questions?
May you specify what this hype is?
Well, there's different types of hype, right? Hype can be built by the funding, the raise, the amount of money you are actually raised. That doesn't equate to the success of the company or the product. If you look at over the last years, or the last 20 years, there's been hyped up companies that never actually were successful, right? If you focus on the core fundamentals of the business and forget about all the other hoopla that goes around with it, that's what I mean by hype. Yeah.
Question over there.
Hi. So you previously said that tech doesn't solve all healthcare problems. So a question for you is, what do you think is the largest healthcare problem right now that we have in Canada, and what are some external forces rather than tech that can help solve?
I mean, the reason I said that specifically is a lot of people focus on building tech because they think tech will ultimately solve anything, right? You can build the greatest tech. If it's not usable, it has zero impact. That's what I mean by that. Second, when I talk about healthcare and health tech, I think the greatest thing and the greatest change will be access and convenience, because that doesn't exist in healthcare. Access is a term, and convenience is something in Canada anyways, and in most countries, you don't find. I think that's because the fundamental workflows and the challenges that the people are working have to deal with has a drawback effect into how they provide access to you. So if solving those, I think those will actually take away the barriers for access. Yeah.
One
Hi there.
more.
Oh, sorry.
Last question.
Yeah.
Hi. I have a very strong background in healthcare, both in the US and Canada.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering how your model is either acknowledging what's happening in the US or trying to be part of what that system is, or are you trying to only identify what's happening in Canada? Because there's obviously a mixture of good and bad on both sides, which I have experienced personally as well as professionally.
Well, the biggest change between US and Canada is privatization versus single-payer system, right? There is differences, but the core issue of access doesn't change. It's how frequent is the access changes, right? In the US, it's more of a competitive basis, so people actually are trying to give you better access. So products that improve access and convenience is a great sell. We sell in the US. In Canada, the issues in Canada is more in relation to workflow and return on investment, which is if you cut down time, it's more valuable here than actually generating more business. That's the big difference. Yeah. Great. Thanks.